say some words about Memorial Day. The historian in me wanted to look back and how did we get to this point? How did Memorial Day start? Looking at my research, it started back actually 3 years after the Civil War by a general that was in charge of the Army at the time. He came up with a General Order number 11, which I will go through here shortly. The general was John A. Logan. He was in charge of all the Army during the time after the Civil War. And this is what he proclaimed. The 30th day of May, 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but post and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonies of respects and circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. We can aid more to assure this result than cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic deed, who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes. Their soldier lives were the reveille of a freedom to a race in chains, and their deaths the tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of the slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds, that pleasance pass invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism or avarice or neglect nor ravages time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of free and undivided republic. In other words, if other eyes grow dull, other hands slack, other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remains to us. Let us then, the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them, which the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they say from his honor. Let us in this solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us, a sacred charge upon a nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept upon year to year, while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to lend its friendly aid in bringing to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewithin. Department commanders will use efforts to make this order effective. By order of John A. Logan, General Commander-in-Chief. So that is how it started. It started as a general order by the Commander-in-Chief in 1868. Now, going through the history, it wasn't called Memorial Day. It was called Decoration Day. Why? Because of decorating the graves of the fallen. Memorial Day itself didn't come into, the name of it changed to Memorial Day. It came in later, like in the 1880s, when it started becoming Memorial Day. Of course, like I said, Memorial Day at the time was for the fallen of the Civil War. But as we got more conflicts in that, things started changing. World War I, 1915. A Belgian lieutenant colonel was in the area called what is known as Flanders Fields. And in Flanders Fields, he, after a battle, he noticed that the poppies were growing, and he made a poem about it. And it was called Flanders Fields, and I wish to read what this lieutenant colonel wrote. And this was Lieutenant Colonel John McRae. He was a Belgian colonel. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. This was written in 1915. This lieutenant colonel died a year later in France of pneumonia. He was a surgeon. About 3 years later, a young woman by the name of Moina Michael was moved by the poem, and she came up with another poem addressing this. And it actually started the red poppy movement, where red poppies were a symbol of remembrance for World War I. Of course, our organization, American Legion, has adopted that after that, along with the VFW and all that, as part of the memorial ceremony. The poem she came up with: we shall keep the faith. Oh, you who sleep in Flanders fields, sleep sweet to rise anew. We caught the torch you threw, and holding high we keep the faith with all who die. We cherish too the poppy red that glows on fields where valor led. It seems to signal to the skies that blood of heroes never dies, but lends the luster to the red of the flower that blooms above the dead in Flanders fields. And now the torch in poppy red we wear in honor of our dead. Fear not that we died for naught, we'll teach the lesson you wrought in Flanders fields. So once again, now we're incorporating stuff as time goes. The whole purpose of this is to to memorialize those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in fighting for this country. As things gone on, this holiday didn't actually become an official holiday until 1971. We had many years that the military, basically, who started this, went around and started Memorial Day traditions. Now, Memorial Day was originally set for May 30th of every year. The new act changed it. It changed it to the last Monday of May. There's some controversy with that. The veterans in the past didn't like that, and the senator from Hawaii has been every year until he passed away here the last couple of years, always tried to correct that. He wanted to be May 30th regardless, but the federal government has designated May 30th, or the 5th Monday of May. As we've gone on through there, in December of 2000, a new movement was added to the Memorial Day deal. They called it the National Moment of Remembrance. It's also now part of the Memorial Day celebrations. What that basically says, at 3 o'clock today, on every Memorial Day at 3 o'clock, everyone's supposed to stop, moment of silence, if possible play taps, in remembrance of all those that fought for this country and made the ultimate sacrifice. And me being the historian, I dug even further. Where we're at today, like I said, started back 1868 was the official first general order. But some historians have dug even further back, where the first, maybe unofficial Memorial Day happened in Charleston, South Carolina. A group of freed slaves, along with the 54th Massachusetts, which was an all-black regiment, helped to relieve a POW camp that was there where Union soldiers died. They died of course, the POW camps in that time, like Andersonville, the one in Charleston, South Carolina, on the racetrack on the Citadel. Of course, what mainly got them was disease, poor conditions that they had, starvation. Well, this group of freed slaves, it happened in May, I believe May 1st of 1865, went into that camp. there was a burial ground there, and they basically consecrated that as a burial ground for the Union soldiers. And they had a celebration, bringing on the flowers and all that. So we can trace back to the earliest days in 1865 when Memorial Day might have started. So that's the history of Memorial Day, how it began, what it means, what it still means today. Take a note that this is the first Memorial Day in over 20 years that we didn't have a war going. So I just happened to hear about that fact yesterday. We do not have an active war, even though we got plenty of troops still in harm's way on peacekeeping missions. They're still there serving our country, keeping us safe. Me, on a personal note, I like to memorialize two individuals that one I knew and one that, in an event that just happened. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Johnny Mata, born and raised in Pecos, Texas. I knew him through some friends and through a deal. We used to play old-time baseball. A bunch of us older guys in our 30s and 40s at the time trying to play ball. The end of that deal was usually beer and Bengay because we were sore. But that's how I met Johnny. He played on the Pecos team. I was with the Greenwood team. Our families knew each other. So we knew each other for a couple of years. Well, then we ended up in Iraq. And Johnny was leading his maintenance company, and they got ambushed. And this is the Jessica Lynch story. He was in that company when Jessica Lynch was taken. That's the incident that happened. He was killed in a firefight by an RPG. Blew up his vehicle. Johnny was 35 years old, and at the time his kids were 16 and 7. We were there for his funeral, and a year later, because of our love of baseball and all that, we came up with a tournament every year that we did with baseball. All of us old guys would get together, play some baseball, and just remember him. And I want to remember him today. Another one I want to remember is more recent. Specialist Bishop Evans. He was out of Arlington. Served tours in Kuwait and Iraq. This young man tried to save people from drowning in the Rio Grande here in April during Operation Lone Star. And when we take an oath for domestic and foreign enemies. Well, he was just trying to save somebody's life, and he was on the job doing it in uniform. So he needs to be memorized too for what he did. And he was only 22 years old, and he didn't think anything about it. He did his job. He tried to go in and save some people that were drowning. Now the ones he tried to save made it. He didn't. So I want to make sure he was memorized today. Well, I thank y'all. I hope I gave y'all a little bit of a history lesson. Of course, like I said, I'm a historian at heart. That's what my degree's in. I love history. And the more I dig into it, I want to understand why we do what we do. And it's us that are here that keep the memories alive. And we need to continue it. We need to tell our families. I was ingrained in it by my father, who was in the military. I come from a long line of military service. And I instilled it in my kids. And I got granddaughters now who are going to get instilled with it too. They're going to know it. So, thank y'all.